training camp, we talked about you taking periods off, and then you start yesterday and you took that period off. Do you expect that to change as closer we get to Carolina and Philly?
It's tough to have expectations. I think there's been some communication between probably all the quarterbacks and Kevin. So I guess I know a little bit what to expect, at least for the next week. But you can't ask me. It's hard for me to tell what it's going to look like, 2-3 weeks from now.
So I know Kevin said he's looking to make a decision sooner rather than later, but is there a date in your mind where if you're the guy, you want to know that you're the guy?
I think there's ideal situations, obviously, and then there's just the reality of the situation. And, it's one of those things that I really don't have any control over, so I'm really not worried about when anything happens. Obviously, there's advantages to knowing, earlier than later, but hey, it's just part of the game.
Joe, I asked this, and it feels a little more relevant to you because we've seen you, maybe not take as many snaps during practice, but what does the day-to-day look like before practice, after practice, where if you're not getting as many reps, you're still, staying locked in and staying prepared and getting.
Well, it's the same. I mean, you're still out here grinding and going through a lot of individual. I mean, yesterday, come on, we ran 20 plays total anyway. It's not like we had a heavy load. So it's just staying locked in and focused during the meeting time, which is a lot of what we're doing right now anyway. The thing for me is if you're not getting a ton of reps out there and you're only getting a certain amount of throws through individual, it's just maybe keeping an equipment guy out and just playing some long toss or something like that, just to make sure your arm's still getting the load that it's kind of gotten over the last 3-4 weeks as you're kind of getting ready to come back.
Joe, from what you've seen so far,
I was going to ask, how determined are you to win this starting job, and what do you have to do to win?
It's tough to look at it that way. I mean, I'm as determined as ever to just be the best quarterback that I can be. And I got it. It's so easy to, and I do it. I'm guilty of it. It's so easy to look ahead and picture yourself as the starter, and hearing that news and things like that. But I really, second day of camp, I think the best thing for me is to just stay in the moment and come out here and have fun and compete and just do what I love to do. I think that's going to be the best way for me to show what I can do and all that stuff. So, I think there's a lot of self-motivation in order to be good at this in this league, and that's always there. So I'm just going to continue to approach it like I always do.
So from what you know of this system this year, is play action more prevalent than in 2023, less prevalent, or the same?
I would think it's very similar. It's a big part of what we want this offense to look like. And I wasn't here in training camp in the first half of the season in 23. I know it was a lot of what we did, and it's kind of a lot of what this offense typically is. Just from talking, the way we're talking about it in meetings and stuff like that, it's a big part, and it's important to us to be good at it. So,
Joe, you obviously you've done this a long time. Your process, how does it change between the end of minicamp to now? How did you kind of approach it? Does you approach it any differently now compared to get ready for this point?
I think you learn probably little things every year. It's generally been the same. It is the most important time, you're at home, and then you get 3 months from January to April or whatever it is, February to April, and those are important to kind of get your body back going and get back in shape. And then you kind of show up here and you put the work in with your guys. But it's still a decent time away from training camp. So the trap that I think you can fall in is just not having something in place when you're young, going back home for 5 weeks and being left to your own devices. If you don't have that schedule, at least for me, if you don't have a kind of a set schedule, then things start to lack, and you start to you just slowly, I'm going to work out at 2 today. I'm going to work out at 4. I'm going to work out at 6. Oh shoot, the day got by. It's just immaturity. So just as my career's going on, just finding people to hold you accountable and make sure that it's not just you. Believe me, holding yourself accountable is a huge part of it, and you learn how to do that. But it's for even the guys that are at the very top, it's very helpful to have other people that can kind of keep you to that and make sure you're ready. But it's just giving your arm that load like I don't necessarily throw a lot and before we come back here for the off season, but leading up to this, I love to throw, so it's a lot of fun. And the one thing that's changed this year is I'm out there with my family and I'm trying to teach my boys 3-step, 5-step drops, and I'm freaking out on them because they're not getting it right away and stuff like that. But I'm throwing a lot in those 5 weeks, and that's.
Joe, you talked about staying in the moment. How much is easier to do that in your 18th season than as a rookie?
It's always a battle, man. It's always a battle. It's always one of those things. I think you learn a little bit about. We were having this conversation yesterday in the locker room with a few guys, like just because guys are looking for advice, and I'm not a great giver of advice, but staying in the moment is very important, and you do realize that as you mature and like you realize the moments, man, like that. Why was I in the zone there? And I still don't know if I have the answer, like the perfect answer as to how to stay in the moment. I know staying in the moment is super important, but like the how to actually do that is the grind of it all. And I think the biggest thing to do is just keep your head down, go in that meeting and attack that meeting. Just like remind yourself of being present and really divvying it up and doing one thing at a time.
Joe, historically, your sack totals have been relatively low. Certainly was in 23 in the 5 games you played. And you're no Lamar Jackson either. So what's your philosophy on avoiding sacks? How have you done it?
Listen, I think you can look at every single sack, and it's very team-oriented, and at the same time, the quarterback is very responsible. Like I think you could make both arguments, depending on what you're trying to say. But the biggest thing for me is being on time and playing in the rhythm of the offense. And then I think even in 23, you saw it a little bit. It wasn't like I'm just standing back there completely. Like I think when you are in good rhythm and you do have the benefit of having 5 guys up front that are really good at their job, that's when your feet can kind of tell you, okay, it's time to get out, and it's time to do those other things. It starts with me with playing in rhythm, being on time with my feet, and then therefore being on time to get the ball out of my hands. And then the added benefit is when you are really good up front, even a guy like me who is not like my number one priority will be given chances to kind of get out and make some plays in those kind of conditions.
There's a lot of added pressure that you have 5 children that are expecting you to win this starting job and be the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I went home in the beginning of June. They're like, "Are you the starter?" Yet, like what, So yeah, it's not added pressure. It's honestly it makes it a lot of fun. It's almost like takes pressure off because you that almost helps put me in the moment and see it for what it is. You wish you could see it from a 11, 12, 13-year-old's eyes. So when you hang around them and you see the questions they ask and the way they phrase things, it honestly kind of helps. It helps put things in the moment and kind of really remind you of what's important and why this game is so important to you. So it's just a good reminder.
Joe, at the end of last year, was there any sort of fear that I'm going to end up on my couch again, nobody's going to call or anything like that?
There really wasn't. Like I feel like the last 2 years I really kind of went in pretty optimistic into the off season. But then, the time comes up where you start signing guys and you don't necessarily hear from people. So of course that goes into that kind of enters into your mind. But I don't really think I have like a negative outlook on it. Like there's only so many things. It goes back to that. There's only so many things you can control. And like you can go out there and play the best you can in hopes of giving people that vision of what you can do for them. But if nobody bites, as long as I can look at myself and like have an idea that I did the right things and I'm happy with what I did, you learn that that's what matters, and you can't worry about the decisions of other people.
And when you heard from Cleveland, then what kind of your emotions and all that? Because you were out there for a while before. Oh.
Yeah, sure, yeah, and we had talked and not talked, and you don't know. I'm very excited to be back here.
Yeah.
So to get the call from these guys and learn that they actually did want to bring me back was very exciting, and felt very good about it, obviously.
Everybody throws interceptions. I get it. Jameis Winston last year would pray to God to make it stop.
Yeah.
they roll off your back. What's your philosophy on picks?
You don't want to throw them. You want to be aggressive and you want to be smart. You know, I have thrown some picks recently, I feel like, but I do still pride myself on not and making good decisions. And having said that, you know that they're going to happen at some point. You want to be aggressive, but that's not necessarily an excuse. Like, being aggressive is not an excuse. The goal as a quarterback is to make good decisions, be accurate, and take care of the football for your team. So ultimately, that's what you want to do. And you have to find that balance of being able to be yourself, be really aggressive, and not turn that damn ball over. It's very important.
Do they affect you like Winston? They don't affect you.
It's just one of those things. They affect me. Yeah, maybe I don't show it. I hope I do a good job of not showing it. But man, like, yeah, there's times where you turn the ball over, and there's definitely times in your life as a 40-year-old where you wish you were like 6 years old and like it was acceptable to just cry about it. You know, you can't hide on an NFL field, and there's times where you definitely want to, but you got to deal with it. You got to deal with it, man.
Joe,
Just a
going
couple
through
more.
what you went through in 23 and having to wait for these guys to call you, like, does that give you a different, or did it give you like a different outlook or appreciation for things like this, like going through a position battle now and everything?
Yeah, it definitely did, and like especially right in the moment, like when it was fresh like that, it does give you that outlook. Now that only goes so long, but I think I can look back on like that was an experience that I got to go through myself. So that's not fresh. It's not in my mind necessarily, but when you're going through, when different thoughts are rattling around in your brain and you don't really want them to be there, that is one of those experiences that I think that I can draw on in my life and kind of remind myself of what I was feeling at that time and why, and that's part of just, you know, learning through experience.
Joe, you mentioned having a strong offensive line and strong front. We know that they're going through some changes. DeJuan Jones playing left tackle, maybe coach up there. So for you as a quarterback, how important is the communication and the work that you do on these fields and getting them ready for that week one and to be a strong front that you need?
Yeah, it's great to be out there with those guys and doing all that together. And at the same time, I have the utmost confidence in their coach and those guys because I've been with them and I can see them working, that they are on top of their stuff. That's the last position group that you're going to have to worry about on this field. So even if you're not directly working with them, you know they're getting in their work and dotting all their I's, crossing all their T's to make sure that, you know, they're on it.
Kenny Pickett, when he came in here, when he first was acquired, he made it abundantly clear that he's coming in here to start. He doesn't want to sit, and I know you feel the same way. So, just between you two guys, how, you know, what is that like to be out there every day, knowing that, you know, that you have to beat each other out, and what mindset do you have in that?
Listen, I think we're all aware of that, and you know, it's not necessarily talked about between the two of us, but you obviously know what you have a little bit of insight as to what they may be thinking and those things. But it goes back to like that's just focusing on, like when you're focusing on Kenny or Kenny's focusing on me, and then we're super focused on that in general. It's kind of the wrong mindset to be in to be at your best. So you try to. It's natural for those things to come into your head, but you try to do your best to get them out and just go out there and be with the guys and be in the moment.
Joe, knowing where this team was last season, what gave you confidence that, you know, coming back you can kind of recapture what happened in 2023?
I'm not trying to recapture, you know. Every season's new in this league, and listen, I've been in the locker room with these guys. I know what they're all about, and it's obviously not the same exact locker room, but there's a lot of really good guys in there that know how to win football games. So that's what gives you the confidence that you can come back here and win games. I don't think it's about trying to recreate anything. It's a new season. Everybody has a fresh mindset, and a lot of the guys in there have a really good one to begin with. They know how to win football games, and that makes you feel good about lining up with them.
Joe, there's
We got time for one more?
already about just the intensity of training camp this year. I know you obviously weren't here for that 2023, but you've also been, you know, a handful of other places where you've seen how camps have run. I know you talked about your 2-a-days back in the day, earlier in the spring, but even dating back to the spring, do you kind of sense that there's different intensity?
Yeah, listen, I think you can talk a lot about how practices are actually structured, but I think what we're talking about is just the mindset, you know, of a winner and a winning football team and what that takes. And it doesn't matter if you're out here for an hour or 3 hours. There's a way that a winning team takes a field and approaches their craft. And I think there's definitely a focus, and you can definitely tell that we're locked in to, make sure that happens.
Joe, you touched on it earlier, but getting to involve your kids in getting ready for training camp, like where did you guys typically go? What did throwing session with?
Yeah, it looked a lot like, September, October before I signed here. going out to a local high school field with my brother, my dad, and my kids, and having them spot up and throw to them, and kind of me do my thing, and then at the end bring them together and have them, have a little bit of fun. And they're gonna be playing football here in the next month or 2 months, and I'll probably miss some of it, but I'll have a lot of family back there kind of checking in on them for me, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, thanks guys.
Thanks, Joe.